And now to end off the show, again, the other big topic that we have for today, we're going to be talking about Jordan Peele's new film, Nope. After a UFO is discovered in a small rural California town, two ranch hand siblings attempt to capture video footage of the UFO's existence in order to make some money. Film stars Daniel Kaluuya. How do you say his last name? Kaluuya or Kaluuya?
Kaluuya, I think.
Kaluuya. Stars Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer, and Stephen Yeun. But overall, this, I would have to say, this feels fairly different from Jordan Peele's other films. Like, is it just me?
Yep, it felt very different. It felt like he still had it's like, at this point, I wouldn't even consider it horror. It's more thriller, sci-fi thriller. I think that's...
Or suspense. The film was very, very suspenseful.
Oof.
That's one of the things that stands out the most about this film. Jordan Peele, from what he's proven, and especially with this film, he's a modern-day master of horror and suspense. Again, suspense more than anything. I think the suspense was probably the most masterfully executed in this film, even more so than Get Out, even more so than Us. And, both of them are very well-done films. But this was just like everything on just a much, much bigger scale. Like, I really appreciated the overall ambition of this film. And it definitely feels like Jordan Peele is tackling new ground. So I respect him for that, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this film, like you said, with suspense, it's a masterclass of that. Like, he is so good at creating that suspense, creating that tension. There's a certain scene that I was just like, what? But then something happened. I was like, oh wow, he got me good, because he subverted expectations, and I think he did it in a good way, especially beforehand. And so I'm rather curious. Like, I don't know. Like, he just subverted expectations like 2-3 times to the point where I was just like, oh boy, I really did not know where certain things were going. So that was a big thing of his storytelling, and even in this film, that is interesting, and I can understand why some people may not like it.
I mean, if it's one thing I will say, like, there are certain things about certain rules of the world and context that didn't make sense overall, but I really did appreciate, the originality of this film's take on, like, the UFO subgenre of sci-fi. And I don't want to give away too much, but the directions they took that in, I thought that was really cool. I didn't feel like that was something that had been done over and over and over again.
Yeah, for sure. It's weird because I expected almost just a regular, almost Jordan Peele movie in the range of Get Out and Us, but to a certain extent, I didn't really get that. I got something more. I think that's how I felt. I got something more than I thought, and at certain points, I didn't know how I felt, mainly because so much was happening, and there's so many layers and to certain actions and scenes that people may not be getting just yet later on, and even at a later date after watching it, I'm like, all right, I feel like I have an idea of what he was going for, so, or where things were going. So I watched it too. So I was like, let me see what other people are thinking, like, just out of curiosity. But overall, I think for me, I really enjoyed this. Had an amazing time seeing it in IMAX. That was definitely an experience. And I think how he tackled, like you said, the UFO, that genre, that idea, and twisted it was fascinating and interesting. And I think this is another movie of his that'll make people think too. That's another one.
Yeah, and again, like, going back, keeping on what you're saying with IMAX, again, like, this is definitely, I think, the biggest imagery that he's ever put on there. I think it's definitely the biggest sound design that he's ever put on there. So if you can see this in IMAX, I highly recommend seeing this in IMAX, because this is without a doubt the biggest film I've ever seen from Jordan Peele. And just watching it in IMAX, like, made me understand and really appreciate the scale of the film that much more.
Yeah. I do think that there are certain narrative points that they wanted to explore, or at least explain, but they didn't really fully explain, and it didn't make sense within the context of certain time periods and how long things have been. How someone would know about a certain event, and even again, it's like I can't really say too much because it will spoil it fundamentally. So, but it's that thing where as much as I want to try to go into detail with a lot of this stuff, I can't. And I just want to tell people that if you're still unsure, go see it in a theater. Like, you just see it yourself, make up your own mind. But there's a lot of dense, layered material, metaphors in this film that is just profoundly there, and it's just incredible in my opinion. That's just, and again, I can, after even leaving the theater, I've overheard some people saying they not like it, or they weren't sure how they felt about certain scenes, certain revelations, and me, even as a viewer, I could understand that. You know, I personally liked it, but I can understand why some people may not be too keen on this movie because of some of the things that happen at a later date. But yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think I was definitely one of those people that wasn't 100% sure how he felt walking out of the theater, but like the more I thought about it, and I think I watched the a video that you sent me, like as far as like explaining certain things, and I'm like, all right, that makes more sense, and I did end up appreciating the movie that much more. Again, I think Peele's direction is one of the things that this film has going for it. What do you think of the performances?
I thought I liked Daniel Kaluuya. You know, I always liked him in a lot of roles. So seeing him, Keke Palmer was the one role I was very worried about because I'm not too big of a Keke Palmer fan, nor do I like her acting necessarily all the time. I thought she was fine in this. I think with what Jordan Peele was trying to go for with her character, I thought she did pretty good. Steven Yeun, absolutely great. I loved him. I loved him in this movie. I just wish we got to see more of him. And certain side characters I weren't too fond of, except one that kind of embraced a certain perspective and really went for it. But yeah, I think overall, not too shabby. Not too shabby, not too bad. Just, I guess a bit more on Keke Palmer's side. I think she was... Again, to me, I think she was a good standout. I think she was a good contrast to her brother in the film. That's a good way to put it. She was a good contrast for that.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I did like the dynamic that the two siblings had. I do like the foils that the two of them were for each other. I thought performances across the board were strong. I feel like Jordan Peele's direction more than anything. Like, I feel like his direction like outshined the characters. I feel like most films, like, you know, when a film gets everything right, like, you know, they all just mesh well together. Like, nothing like really not one element like really outshines the other element. And I feel like, okay, like the biggest thing, like the spectacle, right? The spectacle is a word that I think they used a lot in this film. The spectacle and the scale, the suspense and the action, masterful in their own way. I feel like that definitely outshined the characters a bit, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I definitely see that, especially at a later date. I think it definitely outshined. It definitely took a pretty drastic turn closer to the end, and I can definitely see that. But again, I liked that it was such a big spectacle that to us as viewers, we got lost in it in all to a certain extent. And again, I think for people going to see this movie, it's that thing, just like every Jordan Peele movie, pay attention. Like, there are things that are a bit more relevant than you may think in a very odd way, but it's relevant to a certain degree. At least the theme of it is. And so, like I said, I personally love Nope. Had a great time. Got to see it with my dad in IMAX in the city. We had a good time. He loved it. I loved it. But yeah, I recommend everyone else, if you're still unsure, if you're seeing the reviews, maybe they're mixed, whatever it may be, go watch it. And because it's, you can't really go on how other people, this is very much how you feel is how you feel about it. It's not like a regular action movie where people say, good action, like that's more universal, where this is, I think, a bit more, it feels at least, to me, for what Jordan Peele was going for, felt more specific towards something, and if you're not okay with a certain revelation, you'll probably be not okay with other revelations in a movie, because he really subverts your expectations in pretty drastic ways that you probably weren't thinking.
Yeah, overall, I very much enjoyed this film. I could see why some other people wouldn't be as crazy about it, but again, I thought overall it's a very, very well done film, and yeah, no, I had certain expectations, and I have to say this film definitely met those expectations and then some. So for everybody, What did you think of Jordan Peele's Nope? How do you feel it stands out or compares to the rest of his filmography? Again, we would really, really love to know what it is that you think. I'm not just saying that. I really do mean it. Darius, I know he means it too. And if you liked this review and want more like it, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell to get all notifications for more just like it, whether on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.